Oops, didn't see you there. Hi, I'm Alex. I'm going to tell you something that will blow your mind. I ended up in an orphanage when I was just a baby. That's why I don't remember anything about my family. Who knows, maybe my real parents are the king and queen of some country? Her Royal Highness Princess Alex. How does that sound? I'm kidding, of course. When I was 6, she appeared in the orphanage. Meet Alice. She's going to stay here from now on. Alex, you are going to share a room. Hello. She looked sad and didn't want to talk to anyone except her teddy bear. You are my only friend, Mr. Chubby. She also spent hours sadly looking at her medallion. I wanted to help Alice settle in. Her toy's ear was torn, so I decided to sew it up. Don't touch Mr. Chubby! Alice tried to snatch the bear out of my hand, and we both started to pull at him. Eventually his, head got torn off. My parents gave me this toy. The kids in the orphanage are so rude. Take that back. We turned 15, but little had changed. You trashed my part of the room with your ball, and my part of the room stinks of your perfume. Ugh, you are the worst roommate in the world. No, that's you. One day I heard some noise and looked out into the corridor. Some kids were standing by the window and enthusiastically discussing something. What was going on? I got curious, so I came closer and saw them. Wow, who is that? Mr. and Mrs. Padalecki want to adopt someone. Wow, they looked like they were just on the red carpet. It was also obvious they were obscenely rich. No wonder everyone wanted to catch their eye. After all, every child in the orphanage dreamed of having a family and a home. The couple talked to all the orphans and singled me out. And, ew, Alice out. That's when we started competing for the attention. Alice bragged that she could play the violin. I chatted with Mr. Padalecki about football. You're right, Alex. This year's sports season is impressive. His wife liked me too. I can't wait to go shopping with you. You will look charming in a dress. In the end, they chose me. Hell yeah. Of course, Alice was grinding her teeth with anger. Look at the bright side. The room is now all yours. But my joy didn't last long. On the day of the move, our teacher burst in our room, followed by Mr. and Mrs. Padalecki. All 3 of them looked furious. Alex, how could you do something like that? Just imagine, someone had smashed the headlights of my future parents' car and they found my ball at the crime scene. It was definitely Alice's doing. How could she do that? And the worst thing was that no one listened to me. You've probably guessed what happened next already. The Padaleckis took Alice instead of me to their mansion. Look at the bright side. The room is now all yours. Ugh, she was taunting me on top of everything else. I was gutted. The next day, I found out something amazing. Are you ready? It turned out that someone had adopted me too. They hadn't even met or chatted with me. Was I going to find a home after all? Wow! However, when they brought me there, I was confused. There's been some sort of mistake. This is a military camp. Stand down. There was no mistake, Cadet. Alex. We're your new parents. I'm Carl, and this is my wife, Maggie. You can call us by our names. Welcome home. It turned out that the parents ran a military camp for boys and lived on its territory. Oh, well, I wanted to be adopted, so I decided to try and get used to living there. However, it was easier said than done. Carl and Maggie lived by a strict schedule and expected me to do the same. We woke up early in the morning and went for a run together. Come on, Alex. Why are you so slow? Because I want to sleep. Can I go back to bed? You don't want to miss the sunrise, do you? Look at how beautiful it is. It really was beautiful. I would have even taken a picture of it if they hadn't taken my phone away from me. They didn't want me to spend the summer staring at stupid gadgets, apparently. Ugh. Instead of shopping, I was dragged on hikes. Sometimes Carl would make a fire and play the guitar in the evenings while Maggie was frying marshmallows. It would have even been fun if it hadn't been for the mosquitoes. And of course, there was training, and more training. Come on, Alex, you can do one more push-up. It felt like I was stuck in a boot camp. Alice was probably relaxing in her own pool at the moment. One morning, I found out that new kids were about to arrive at the camp. I started to help my parents prepare for the arrival of the new recruits. Carl asked me to bring him his tools from his office. Wow, I haven't been to this part of the house yet. There were a lot of fun pictures on the wall, but what caught my attention was a photo and a beautiful frame on the table. There was a married couple standing next to young Carl and Maggie in it. Everyone was smiling happily. I wondered who those people were. I picked up the photo to get a better look. At that moment, Carl suddenly walked into the office. What's taking you so long? I jumped in surprise and dropped the photo. The glass broke. Oh no. Carl got terribly angry. I tried to apologize and said it was an accident, but he wouldn't listen to me and told me not to come in there without permission. Soon the bus with the cadets arrived. Wow, so I was going to be the only girl in a military camp? That was funny. Then a gorgeous car drove up to the gate. The driver got out of it and opened the door in front of a chubby guy who was eating ice cream and looking around with disgust. The driver helped a man in an expensive suit to get out of the car. Wait a minute. That was the mayor of the city, Mr. Depp. He shook Carl's hand and they started discussing something. I got curious and decided to eavesdrop. I heard your camp is the best in the state. That's right, Mr. Depp. Then I hope that you will help my son get in shape. However, if anything happens to Chris, I will immediately close your camp. The mayor said that he would call Carl every evening to ask about his son's progress and left. Meanwhile, I was in for some unpleasant news. Maggie gave me a uniform and informed me that I would train with the other kids so that I wouldn't be bored. What? No. You're so fit. I'm sure you'll give them a run for their money. I don't usually brag, but she was right. I played football better than all the guys in my orphanage. However, I still didn't want to live in the barracks. As we all stood in formation, my parents told us the rules of the camp. However, not everyone liked them. No phones? How will I order pizza then? You won't. You will eat the same food as the rest of the cadets. Chris was clearly used to getting special treatment. It was infuriating. He would sometimes lock himself in the communal bathroom for an hour. Hurry up, we need to use the bathroom too. Oh, Chris also thought that since he was the mayor's son and I was the only girl in the camp, we should become an item. Hey baby, you're lucky a guy as cool as me is here. Let's go out. Ew, get away from me. That jerk Chris never cleaned up after himself because he was used to maids doing everything for him. He was very lazy and cheated in every possible way in training. One day we went jogging, and that genius pretended he'd sprained his ankle and couldn't run anymore. It hurts. Everyone was tired enough as it was, and now we had to carry him as well. Hurry up, guys. You can't leave your friend behind. We're finally close, princess. Shut up and try not to be dead weight. When we got back, I tried to put Chris in his place. You're so selfish. Would you stop being such a jerk? Carl overheard us by chance and scolded me. This course builds character. Chris just needs more time to get used to how things are done here. He's never been denied anything before. You shouldn't yell at him. It was unfair that my parents went easier on the mayor's arrogant son than on me. The next night, Chris outdid himself. Carl made a big fire. All the cadets sat around it, and Maggie brought a lot of marshmallow packages and left them unattended for a few minutes. That was enough time for Chris to get to the sweets and eat them all by himself. And then he put the empty packages in front of me so that I would be blamed for it. What a bastard. Everyone stared at me in disappointment. Do you really think I did it? Look at Chris. He's got powdered sugar all over his face. But they didn't believe me. Ugh, I'd had it with them. I wanted to go to the city and feel like an ordinary teenager for a few hours. I said I was going to bed, crept to the fence, and quickly climbed over it. I didn't have much money, so I just ordered a milkshake and wandered around the city. Yummy. That's when I saw Alice in the window of a posh restaurant. She was wearing fashionable clothes and had a brand new phone. To my surprise, Alice looked upset and was crying. That was weird. Even though we hadn't got along and she totally screwed me over, I decided to say hi. What's up, Alice? Why are you crying? You okay? When she saw me, she quickly wiped away her tears and smiled meanly. Am I okay? These are tears of joy. I'm living the dream. How did you even get in here in this outfit? You smell of poverty. Wow, she was even more arrogant than before. I wanted to snap back at her, but I had to go home before anyone noticed my absence. I sneaked into the camp the same way I got out and tiptoed in my room. Whew, I did it. But then the light suddenly came on and I saw Carl and Maggie. They looked really mad. My little trip hadn't gone unnoticed after all. Oh, I was in a world of trouble. That was very irresponsible of you, young lady. Have you no discipline? What if something happened to you? They didn't stop at screaming. The next day, I found out I would have to wash the socks of all the cadets for a whole week as punishment. Imagine how angry I was. Alice was wiping tears of joy with banknotes while I was washing smelly socks. I've had enough. I want to go back to the orphanage. What should I do? Chris suddenly came up to me. He claimed that he'd seen my escape and demanded that I sneak him out to the city. I can't eat healthy food any longer. I want burgers and ice cream. If you don't help me, I'll tell my dad that I'm being treated badly here. What? He sure had some nerve. I grabbed him and was about to show him who was in charge, but then I got a better idea. If Chris went missing, the mayor would definitely get angry and shut the camp down. My parents would be blamed for everything, and I would be able to go back to the orphanage. Brilliant! I told Chris about my plan and he liked it. After all, he didn't want to stay at the camp either. We sneaked out, and we were soon at a diner. Finally, some normal frickin' food. We need to hide you somewhere for the night. I know just the place. There was a secret basement in my orphanage that few people knew about. Sometimes I hid there from the teachers. That's where I brought Chris. Honestly, dealing with him was a nightmare. He was out of shape and had to stop and rest every 5 minutes. He almost got stuck in the fence on the way. It's dark and scary here. Quit whining. You only need to stay here for one night. If the plan works, you'll be home tomorrow. Don't make any noise or you'll get busted. I left him in the basement and headed back to the camp. You wouldn't believe what was going on there. Everyone was running around and going nuts looking for Chris. My parents were out of their minds with worry. It turned out that the mayor had called. He wanted to talk to Chris. When he was told that they could not find his son, he shouted that he would soon come with the police. My, oh my, what a nightmare! How could we lose a child? They're going to close the camp. I hated seeing them so upset, but it was their own fault for imposing such strict rules. If the cadets could use their phones, they would have easily called Chris and found him. I felt terribly hungry, but the dining room was already closed. However, I knew that Carl kept the key in his office, so I decided to sneak in there and borrow it for a while. I found Carl inside. I thought he would start shouting at me for getting into his office, but he was just looking at the photo in the broken frame. He seemed upset when he saw me. He sighed sadly. You know, Alex, my brother and I dreamed of running a camp like this one when we were kids. After he and his wife died in a car accident many years ago, I swore that I would make our dream come true, and Maggie and I opened this camp, and now it's all over. Oh, I'm so sorry. So this is your brother and his wife next to you in the photo? Yes, Bobby and Madeline. They had a little daughter. Maggie and I weren't earning enough money to adopt her at the time, so the girl ended up in an orphanage. We couldn't find my niece after that. When we could afford it, we took in another wonderful girl. You, Alex. I could feel the tears in my eyes. What a touching story. It got me thinking. Maggie and Carl were really good people. They were a bit weird, but I learned a lot from them. For example, to enjoy sunrises. I couldn't screw them over like that. I had to get Chris back before the mayor came. I ran out of the office without explaining anything and ran to the orphanage. However, Chris wasn't in the basement, but Alice was. What are you doing here? You again? I come here to be alone sometimes. She suddenly burst into tears. It turned out that her new life was terrible. Mr. and Mrs. 𝗕𝗟𝗖𝗢𝗑 treated her like an accessory. They dressed her up and showed her off to their friends. I just wanted to have parents again. Alice sighed and opened her locket. It turned out that there had been a photo of her parents inside the whole time. When I saw it, I was shocked. Alice's father was Bobby, Carl's brother. I asked Alice to tell me more about him and then realized what had happened. I was adopted by your uncle and aunt. It's crazy. We were so happy that we forgot about our feud and hugged. Still, I had to hurry up and get Chris back to the camp. Some guy was here when I came in, but he went in search for food. Damn it! Where was I supposed to look for him now? It was already pretty dark out. Alice and I rushed outside and almost fell over laughing when we saw that Chris had gotten stuck in the fence. Help me! What are you laughing at? Anyway, we freed Chris, and the three of us got into the camp. Mr. 𝗕𝗏 was already there. I will sue you! Where is my son? Dad, I'm here! I was afraid that Chris would start complaining and the camp would be closed, but he surprised us. You know, I really wanted to run away from this place, but when I got stuck in a fence, I realized that I needed to get in shape. I want to stay. I promised to behave. Sorry for acting like a jerk. The mayor was pleasantly surprised, and so the camp and my parents didn't get in trouble. I also apologized and called Carl and Maggie Dad and Mom for the first time. It was great. Alice told Child Services how her adopted family treated her, and the 𝗕𝗟𝗖𝗢𝗍𝒑s lost their parental rights. However, Alice did not go back to the orphanage because Carl and Maggie adopted their niece. Now I have an eccentric but great family. The next summer, Chris came back to camp. See that handsome guy? That's him. Chris has changed a lot. Let me tell you a secret. We're going on a date soon.
Yes! Shouted my dad. I have a daughter! And I have a son! Rejoiced his friend William. Hi, I'm Beverly. My friend Dean and I were born on the same day in Quebec. Our parents were friends and were sure that we would get married when we grew up. If only they'd known what it would lead to. Prepare some snacks and get ready to listen to my story. Best friends forever! Our favorite hangout was a golf club. Our parents spent the weekends there. That was also where we met Grace. Her parents also often came there and brought their daughter along.
Hi, I'm Beverly. Do you like to play golf?
Of course not. What if a ball hit my head? Dean, let's go watch cartoons in the break room. My friend abandoned me because of some upstart. That was the worst betrayal ever. Dean fell under her spell and started treating her like a queen. Ugh. Whatever. Marry Grace then. I'm not playing with you anymore. Luckily, Grace's parents soon moved to another city, and that nasty girl stopped coming to the golf club. I'm sorry I stopped hanging out with you because of Grace. She's gone now, so let's be friends again. I couldn't stay mad at him for long and soon forgave him. Things went back to normal. Dean and I went to high school. Our parents kept saying that one day we would get married. Mom, stop embarrassing me. We're just friends. Do you want to know a secret? I had actually been in love with Dean for a long time. Shh, don't tell anyone. One day, Dad had to urgently leave for work. He was a well-known psychiatrist, so that made me anxious. Had something bad happened? I soon forgot about it. After all, Dad came back in the morning, and my parents told me some cool news. Sweetie, we're going to Hawaii for the whole weekend. Hell yeah! Aloha! Where was my bikini? The best thing was that Dean and his parents were coming too. It was a sign. I decided to tell him about my feelings, wrote a love note, and planned to give it to him on the beach. Do you think it worked? If only. Guess who's a loser? That's right, I am. On the plane, I found out that Grace and her parents were coming too. Damn it, not that lying witch. It turned out her family was moving back to our city. Hi, everyone. Oh, Dean, you're so tall now. Hey, girlie, bring me some juice. Don't call me that. Also, I'm not working here. Beverly? I didn't recognize you in that outfit. Grace was a real beauty, but had a nasty personality. It was like she was stuffed with boogers. Ugh. And the worst part was that Dean forgot all about me again when he saw her. They spent the whole weekend together. Dean even told her our inside jokes. Don't mind me, I'll just bury myself in the sand, I guess. On our last evening there, our parents went to a restaurant and we hung out by the ocean. I was hoping Grace would leave Dean and me alone for a minute and I would give him my note. Guess who? Your face is too pretty to look sour. Dean, I've been meaning to tell you something for a long time. Yeah? It was a special moment, I could feel it. But Grace ruined everything. She appeared out of nowhere and pulled Dean away.
Let's go swimming.
It made my blood boil. I also got into the water to cool down a bit. However, I couldn't swim, so I just lay on an inflatable pool mattress. Before I knew it, I dozed off. When I woke up, I realized with horror that I had been carried too far from the shore. SOS! SOS! Help! The worst thing was that Grace saw that I was in trouble. She deliberately turned Dean away from the water and kissed him! OMG! At that moment, my heart broke. She led Dean away from the beach, and I was left all alone. The sky grew dark, and it started to rain. I was shivering from the cold. If it hadn't been for a random surfer, I wouldn't have gotten out of there alive. I will never forgive you, Dean. When we came back home, I got sick and spent 2 weeks with a high fever. Dean didn't even visit me once. Whatever. Let him chase that wacko Grace like a loyal dog. When I recovered and came to school, I found out that Dean and Grace had become an item. That sweet couple was holding hands wherever they went. Besides that, a new kid called Kyle had been transferred to our school. Our classmates avoided him. No wonder, he was rude to everyone, dressed shabby, and had no manners. He even spray painted our lockers once. Now the stump isn't as ugly. What are you looking at, princess? Eat dirt, jerk. I was hoping I wouldn't have to interact with him much. But I was a loser, remember? It turned out that the new guy had failed all the tests. I was a diligent student, so I was asked to tutor him. Neither of us were thrilled. Okay, I don't like you and you don't like me either, but I need to explain this topic to you. Kyle suddenly snatched the textbooks from my hands, threw it in the trash, and recited all the formulas by heart. I almost fell over in surprise. What? I know this topic better than you. You have nothing to teach me. Just imagine, the new guy had failed the test on purpose. I tried to find out why, but Kyle just grinned and left. See you tomorrow, Professor. Ugh, that moron! Something was wrong with that new guy. At recess the next day, I saw the principal come up to Kyle and scold him. I'm worried about your future. You failed all the tests.
Relax, Mr. D. Maybe you should loosen your tie.
You have no idea what that weirdo did next. He took scissors out of his backpack and cut off Mr. Downey's tie in front of the whole school. Everyone started to whisper, waiting for the principal to explode. His eyes were bloodshot. That was it. Kyle had gone too far. You! How dare you! The nerve of you!
Well, what are you gonna do about it? Expel me?
Nonsense. Of course not. Everyone was stunned by his reaction. Most of all, Kyle himself. Oh, come on! After that incident, all sorts of rumors started to spread around the school. Everyone assumed Kyle was from some rich and influential family, and that was why he got off so easily, no matter how daring his antics were. One day at recess, I was watching Dean flirt with Grace in the hallway. I was following her around like a minion, when I accidentally bumped into Kyle. Ouch! Watch where you're going. A stack of cash fell out of his pocket. Oh, wow! He was loaded. It wasn't just me who noticed. Grace whistled delightedly too. Is Kyle really rich? Wow! I tried to help Kyle pick up the money. Our hands even touched for a second. But then he frowned, crammed the bills in his pocket, and left. Get out of my way! What was up with him? The next day, I went for a walk after school because I knew that Dean and his parents were coming over. I didn't want to see that traitor. It soon grew dark, and I realized I'd wandered into a bad neighborhood. I didn't scare easily, but it was really creepy there, especially when some weirdo came up to me.
Hey, gorgeous. Are you lost?
No, I'm good.
You look like a scared little kitten.
I'm warning you. I know karate. He laughed and tried to grab my purse. No, back off. I don't know what would have happened if he hadn't appeared in the alley.
Hey, she told you to back off!
Thank you.
What are you doing here?
He offered to walk me home so that I wouldn't get in trouble again. We got to talking. And you know what? He surprised me again. Kyle turned out to be quite nice and well-educated. I was so confused. Why are you always so rude to everyone at school?
Well, I'm acting that way on purpose. I wanted to be expelled. I should be earning money, not wasting time at school.
What?
Well, here's your house. Good night, Bev.
Kyle smiled mysteriously and left. He was such a weirdo. The next day at school, Dean suddenly started flirting with me again. Can you imagine? Are you feeling all right? Where's your toxic princess?
You mean Grace? We broke up.
Dean apologized for acting like a jerk and invited me to a party at the golf club. Our families were going to hang out there just like in the good old days. I was still mad at him. However, I decided to give him one last chance and forgive him, especially since he seemed gutted after his breakup. The same couldn't be said about Grace. That viper was already flirting with Kyle. To be honest, I was a little jealous. I showed up at the club in my best outfit. Our parents were happy to see us together. After all, they'd always believed we were meant for each other. But you know what? When Dean hugged me, there were no butterflies in my stomach. I didn't feel anything at all, even though I had been pining for my friend for a long time. And then, Grace and her parents showed up at the party. Dean started fussing and said he would bring us drinks. He was gone for too long, so I went looking for him and accidentally overheard his conversation with Grace. Oh, I'll do anything to get you back.
I'm sorry, but that's just not gonna happen. I caught a bigger fish. Oh, here's my rich prince.
Kyle walked in. Grace pushed Dean away and ran to him. However, when the guests parted, it turned out that Kyle was just serving them drinks. Wait, was he?
A waiter? Are you kidding me?
What's wrong with that? I need money. Why did you even think I was rich? Now move. I have work to do. Grace was furious.
I was flirting with a beggar? You made me look like an idiot. And you're going to pay for it, Kyle.
I spent the whole evening looking for the right moment to talk to Kyle, but he was too busy. And then I saw my dad take him aside. They talked about something for a long time. I couldn't hear a word because of the noise, but they both looked grim. I started to follow Kyle after the party to figure out how he was connected to my father.
Ah, damn it. Spying on someone in heels is not easy.
Soon, we got to a bad neighborhood. I followed Kyle into an alley and saw that he lived in a tent right on the street. Can you imagine? I tried to ask him why, but Kyle got very angry.
Did you follow me here?
Do you need help?
Thanks, I'll manage. Get out of here and stay out of my business.
Ugh, he was such a stubborn fool. Why were all the guys around me such jerks? At home, I asked Dad how he'd met Kyle, but he said he couldn't talk about it. Were they kidding me? Kyle didn't show up at school the next day. By lunchtime, I started to worry and decided to talk to Dean about it. However, when I found him in the dining room, I couldn't believe my eyes.
What the hell, Dean? What are you doing?
Sorry, girl, but he's my boyfriend now.
We're back together.
Oh, Grace. That stinker had apparently found out that Kyle wasn't rich and got back with Dean. That was just like her. However, I was really disappointed in my friend. You follow her around like a faithful dog. It's pathetic.
Ow! Oh, my leg! Oh, that hurt!
Oh, please, quit whining. It seemed the laptop had hit Dean hard. He even started to limp, but I didn't care anymore. I was going to storm out of school, but then I heard something interesting. Mr. Downey, Kyle didn't come to school today. He's not at home either.
That poor boy. He's been through so much.
That was weird. What was he talking about? What had Kyle had to go through? And where was he anyway? There was only one place I could think of, so I ran to that bad neighborhood. I didn't have to look for long. I immediately noticed Kyle, who was washing someone's expensive car.
That'll be $10, sir.
Why weren't you at school today? Everyone was looking for you.
I couldn't come. Just leave.
If you don't tell me what's going on, I'll tell Mr. Downey where to find you. Kyle sighed heavily and told me his story. It turned out that his parents had recently lost their jobs. They didn't have enough money to pay rent, and a bank was going to take their house away soon. Kyle's mom got into a psychiatric hospital because of all the stress, and his dad got depressed and did nothing for days on end. Kyle constantly argued with him and eventually decided to live on the street. I have a younger brother. If I don't earn any money, we will lose our home and he will end up in an orphanage. That's horrible! Have child services done anything to help? They transferred me to your school because I did everything to be expelled from my previous one. Studying takes time, but I need to work. Now, the teachers go easy on me because of what I went through. How do you know my father? When my mom had a nervous breakdown, your dad came over and put her in the clinic. I had no idea that Kyle was dealing with so much stuff. It was terrible. I had to do something to help. I tried to convince Kyle that if he studied, he would find a better job in the future, especially since he was so great at physics. The next day, I was putting things in my locker when Kyle suddenly came up to me. Hey, I think you're right. I used to like studying. Do you want to do a science project together? That's a great idea! I'm so glad you're back. Oh, wow, you're perfect for each other. Not everyone gets the best. Not all that glitters is gold. Walk on. That wasn't the end of it. At recess, I saw Kyle anxiously looking for something. I can't find my hoodie. After classes, the principal came up to him in the hallway. He was clearly furious.
Kyle, we've been very lenient with you, but this time, you've gone too far.
What do you mean, Mr. Downey? Kyle stole money and a phone from my locker.
What? I didn't.
Mr. Downey, I heard him say he needed money. We went to the security room and looked at the surveillance footage. Someone in Kyle's hoodie had indeed rummaged through Grace's locker. That's not Kyle. He was with me at that time. That was when I noticed something strange. The thief on the screen was limping. I remembered the laptop falling on Dean's right leg and immediately realized we had to check his backpack. And you know what? Grace's money and phone as well as Kyle's hoodie were in it. Surprise! Oh, you should have heard Dean try to justify his actions. He said that Grace had put him up to it. But that cunning girl would have never admitted to it. He's lying! I later found out that she kept trying to date rich guys because her family was on the verge of bankruptcy. We proved Kyle was innocent. His mom went on the mend and was going to be discharged soon. And his father got help at my dad's clinic and easily found a new job. The bank stopped trying to make them move out of their house. Kyle's brother wouldn't have to go to the orphanage either. Now, Kyle could go back to his normal teenage life and studies. That made me happy because he was very smart. We were writing a physics paper when, well, you get it, right? As for Dean, he keeps apologizing for what happened. Bev, come on, we're childhood friends. On the one hand, he's right, but on the other hand, he betrayed me so many times. What do you think I should do?